Hello and welcome to Design Chat, the best live design discussion on the internet. I'm your host, Ryan McGovern. On Twitter, I'm at Hoopajube and at Design Chat. Every week, or actually recently, we haven't been doing it, but every week we're picking it back up. We talk to some of the coolest people in design. We bring them straight to you. It's like a little mini design conference, if you will. You get one-on-one time with somebody who's really cool from the design industry. You get to ask questions. If you have a webcam, you can get on camera live on the show and ask your question that way. So if you haven't heard of us before, this is your first time, welcome. It's good to have you here. Please follow us on Twitter at DesignChat. Today we are talking to the at Swissmiss, Tina Roth Eisenberg. Welcome. Golf clap. We always do golf clap. Yay! How you doing?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
It's an honor to have you on. It's an honor to speak to you. You do so much in the design community and give so much back. You know, it's great to connect with people like you who are so involved in participating and giving back their time and you know things that they do. I can't wait to get this started here. For people who aren't familiar, wow, we're already at 90 people. That's great. Um, we're going to do a little interview, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. And the way that you do that, there's a little light bulb icon above the chat room. You click on that, and you can type in your question. Or if you have a webcam, you can get on the camera, and you can ask a question. We'll bring you on. So, Tina, um, I
Right.
don't even know where to start. And I say that a lot because a lot of the people that we have on the show, um, they're overachievers, right? They do a lot, not only in their professional life, but also in giving back to the design community. We were just talking off air very briefly about your Creative Mornings lectures. So why don't we kick it off with that? When did that start, and why did it start? You know, what motivated you to do that?
Well, Creative Mornings for those people that don't know, is a breakfast lecture series that started in New York. That I started in New York about 2.5 years ago, just out of the need of getting people to actually meet up in person. It's all good to connect virtually over blogs and Twitter and all that, but I just really feel like meeting up with people in person, it has become more and more important because we're getting more and more isolated. So I figured, you know what, if I create a really accessible event that's free in the morning before work, you go in, you listen to an inspiring speaker out of the design world, you have some breakfast, you chat with people, and you go to work. That's the kind of event I wanted to start, and I did, and it kind of blew up. It became much bigger than I thought it would ever be. So now we're not only in New York having these monthly lecture series, but also we then started in Zurich, Switzerland, in LA, and actually tomorrow there's the first Creative Morning San Francisco. It's very exciting.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. That's just great because, you know, some people, after school, you know, they just kind of stop learning. But you know, the people who are really into it, it seems like there's, especially in the industry of design, you need to constantly educate yourself. You need to constantly connect with your peers because the industry is sort of rolled over so quickly and changed so many times in the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Um, so,
Mm.
what are some of the subjects that are talked about in some of the guests that you've had in the past?
Oh my God. We had speakers like Zach Klein, one of the founders of Vimeo. We had Michael Beirut, one of the partners at Pentagram, who gave an amazing talk about clients, which I would recommend to anyone to watch. Like, if you are in the service industry as a designer, you need to watch this talk. If you go on
Hmm.
creativemornings.com, you can click on the Vimeo icon, and it takes you to all the videos that we taped so far. Or we had actually Milton Glaser in New York 2 months ago. That was quite spectacular, I must say.
That's
He's a
grand.
design legend.
Yes.
So it's all across the board. It's just interesting people that do stuff in the creative field, and very open to also speaker suggestions. So if anyone has some ideas, send them our way.
Right. Where would they send those?
Um, you can tweet them at me at Swissmiss.
Perfect. In addition to that, you also teach at the Parsons School of Design. And I looked it up really quick, and it kind of said you're under the staff. You're teaching interactive web design. Is was that a
Well, I'm
first
actually taking
choice?
a
Is
break
that
right now.
something that they had? Okay, or you have in the past then.
Yeah, I'm,
Was that a
yeah,
choice?
yeah. No,
Was that
I
an opening they had?
yes, that was an opening they had, and while I enjoyed it, I feel like I am taking a break right now because I'm not sure if that's actually what I want to teach. We are, well, I can actually segue into something else right now because I still do want to teach, but I wasn't sure if that's the environment I want to teach in and if that's the topic I want to teach.
Right.
So after 2 semesters at Parsons, I decided that I want to take a break, and we're just about to expand our collaborative workspace, Studio Mates. We just broke through last week and expanded our space because next door opened up, so we can actually have a conference room slash workshop room. So what we want to start doing here at Studio Mates is start offering workshops, because we have about what now 18 people in our space, and we have like a few rock stars in the industry that are amongst us, and I really want people to like they are in a studio to teach, to like sort of spread their knowledge, and so this
Hmm.
might be the direction I'm going to be going with teaching, leading smaller
Oh, that's
workshops within
fantastic.
our space.
That's very exciting. Um, so there's so many topics to hit. I also discovered you not so recently launched an app and a web app called TeuxDeux. Here, I'll type it in here. It's
Mm-hmm.
T-A-T-E-A, no, T-E. I can spell, really. I can do it.
TEUX.
U-X-D-E-U-X .com.
I pronounce it to
Yeah, I
do.
went to art school. Don't spell so good. TeuxDeux. All right.
To do.
Brilliantly clear organization app, right? And it seems sort of like another step. Organization sort of seems to be like a theme in your life, your professional life. So that what got me thinking about that was, sort of where did that come from, and what is a time in your life that you felt completely disorganized, and what did you do to get out of it?
I feel like that every day. Well, I'm Swiss, right? So the Swiss have this rumor to be very organized, right? And I mean, I am organized. It's just like I keep taking on way too much that I can handle because I love to do stuff. So I keep saying yes and yes and yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to be very organized because my plate is extremely full. So I have this, I'm really interested in how people organize their workload and what they need to do. Hence, the conversation I had about a year ago with my studio mate, Cameron Kozon, because I saw him using Things, which is a really good to-do app. Which helps you organize your to-dos, and I asked him, "So you do like it? You don't like it?" Because I've tried them all, and I've abandoned all of them because I realized they're just too complicated. And I have my very own devices that I live in the browser, and I'm sure a lot of people don't, but I do. Like I'm on in the web all day long. I open a browser window every 2 minutes, or even more. So I realized if I really want to have a to-do app that hits me over the head, I need a to-do app that hits me over the head every single time I open a browser window and tells me what I need to do. So that's why I wanted to have this browser-based
Right.
to-do app, and hence Cameron and I basically just built it. Like we had a lunch conversation over it, and he goes, "Tina, just design it. I'll build it." And within 24 hours, we had a working prototype, which we then used in our studio, and we like hand coded in usernames and passwords if somebody wanted to use it. And then in December of 2010, 9, I forget now. No, 2009. We launched it as a mini site. Cameron made a really funny demo video. He's a quite funny man. So he made a really funny demo video. We made this little tiny mini site, sort of saying, "World, here's a to-do app we made. Use it. It's free." And I blogged
Right.
about it. And for the first time, I got to experience the Swissmiss effect, because I blogged about it at like 9 in the morning, and half an hour later, Cameron looks at me and goes like, "What's going on? We having so much traffic, and the user signups kept like coming in the hundreds."
Yeah.
And then I realized that Fast Company wrote a post about us within like an hour, calling us the best to do app of
Wow.
2009. And then I mean, I just love the internet, and then it just went haywire from there, and it just
That's
spread like
great.
wildfire. And now we have like 150,000 users, which is mind blowing to me, because I've never advertised it, and everybody's super
150,001 because I
fanatics.
signed up today.
I know, I saw that. Thank you. Yeah. Well, let me know if you're gonna stick to it, because I love hearing if people, because I'm not hurt, because everybody has their own way of organizing their to dos. So for a lot of people, it's too simple. what we've built. They want to have
Right.
reminders and they want to have recurring tasks. And to me, it's just a very day-to-day, like sort of a simple list. And instead of having like a paper list, you have it in your browser. And the beauty of it is that whatever you don't do, it just magically rolls over to next day. So you don't have to rewrite your list.
Oh,
And
great.
that's like the magic of it all. Yeah.
See, it came at a good time for me because I was in a car accident on Monday evening, just 2 days ago. It was a very scary thing. I was at a stoplight and a car hit me from behind. I had no idea it was coming.
Oh.
So my last day and a half has been dealing with the aftermath of that, getting the car fixed and making appointments. I've got to go see a chiropractor and all this mess. It's crazy.
Oh.
Um, and I was trying to make appointments on Google Calendar, and it's having issues, and I couldn't get to it. And then I have an Android phone, so I had to try to do it from here, and it was like this big pain in the butt. And it was at a perfect time. So then I was doing research on you, found TeuxDeux, and signed up
To
right
do.
away. And I was like, okay, this is clean. I can do this. It's there. I can get to it. I saw on the fact sheet that you have the iPhone app. You're working on an Air app and an Android app. So hopefully I'll get it on my Android very soon. I hope that. I think it's going to help me a lot just because visually, like you've said in interviews before, your brain works visually. You have to be able to see things, to touch them, and organize them, and instead of just remembering lists and going into drop down lists and all that sort of mess. So a lot of us in the creative industry, we're going to end up working the same way. So I think it's a great tool.
Thank you.
Um, so okay, ThinkMap. I definitely want to talk about ThinkMap. It was something that happened earlier in your career. Um, uh, for people who aren't familiar, you know what? This is crazy. Sorry, I just looked down. There's 160 people here. This is a lot of people for Design Chat. I'm very excited to see you all. Um, so if you're just watching it, sign in. You can sign in with your Twitter account, or you can sign up for a Vocal account, vocal.com. It takes you like 2 seconds, and that way you can ask questions. You can actually type in questions, and we're going to take the Q&A in just a little bit, and they'll pop up on the screen. Or if you've got a camera, guys, you can get on camera and ask your question that way. Very much looking forward to that. So everybody sign in really quick. Um, okay, so ThinkMap. ThinkMap. On the subject that we were just speaking about, visually working with words. Tell us a little bit about the history of it and its current state today. And the
Well,
visual thesaurus
you mean
within
probably
that, sorry.
visual thesaurus, right? Yeah. Well,
Yes,
so
yes, yes.
ThinkMap, ThinkMap is a company I used to work for before I started my own design studio, and I was very lucky. That was one of my most exciting jobs I've ever had, and it really kind of launched my career. When they hired me, they were called Plum Design, and it was like a full-service design, web design agency, sort of along the lines of Razorfish or Organic at the time, and we did a lot of regular web service type work, but they also had this software called ThinkMap, which was a data visualization, or is a data visualization software that you can sort of layer on top. It's like sort of a layer that you put on top of your data, and you can visualize whatever data it is you have. And one of the founder, Mark Tinkler, who created the software, he wanted to showcase what you can do with it. And one of the first projects he did with it was Visual Thesaurus, which is basically a 3D animated thesaurus. So they're basically like a thesaurus that has come to life. For those people that don't know what a thesaurus is, it's like when you look up synonyms. Like if you're writing a long copy and you keep using the same words and you need another word for cool, you can either go on thesaurus.com or have an actual thesaurus in your hands and you look up other words for cool, or you can look it up on the Visual Thesaurus, and it's super awesome. If you're into words and if you're visual, you will enjoy it. And I still use it to this day, and I totally get lost in it. So you would type in the word cool, and it would come up in the middle, and then like a spider out of it come the words, the synonyms and antonyms connected to it. And it would explain, you can roll over and it will explain to you like why they're connected and give you examples. And then you can click on another word and that comes into the center, and it's very organic and kind of wobbly and animated and cool. And then you can sort of browse through words. You can sort of discover language visually. And I I had the chance to brand the visual thesaurus in its entirety, which means like the logo, the packaging, the actual UI of the visual thesaurus, the website at the time. So I really got to create a brand that lived online and offline, because there was a CD as well. Like you could actually buy the physical CD and install it on your computer. It lived online if you just want to subscribe to it, and it has been hands down one of the most exciting projects I've ever worked on.
That's fantastic. And it's really sort of introducing an era where, because of the interfaces that we have as visual creators, that, we're getting into a time where we can actually touch type, right? It's not just printed on a piece of paper. It's not something we've written down or cut out and pasted, that we've been sort of gotten away from for a while. But now, the computer interfaces are getting so strong, that we can actually touch our type and move it around. And I'm really hoping that those sort of interactive changes come soon to the design applications that we use to create our visuals right now. And it's a subject I'm very, very interested in right now, where it's the sort of the next evolution of the design industry, and how we interact and create our images and our designs and our typography. And I really truly believe that the next sort of flop, if you will, is going to be in the people who are educated enough to actually create this sort of typography. And it doesn't seem like there's a very uh, dummy simple way to do it, right? It takes a lot of tech savvy. It seems like the people who are becoming successful right now wear a lot of hats. They're also good programmers, in addition to all of the other education that they have to create visual design. So I guess where I'm going with this is, I want sort of your take on the sort of state of design industry, and sort of where you see yourself fitting into it, and where you see yourself fitting into it in the future.
Well, funny enough, the state of the design industry, I actually left it a year ago. I have never really been really public about this, but I started my own studio after ThinkMap. This was 5 years ago. And I was super lucky. I had the MoMA as my first client. I mean, you can't really start off better than that. And a lot of really great clients along the way. And about a year ago, or a year and a half ago, I started realizing that I'm getting less and less excited about what I actually do. And I was dreading client work and really trying to avoid it and do all the other fun projects like Creative Mornings or TeuxDeux or my blog. And I've decided to go on a 1-year client sabbatical. And that was February 14th, 2010. And that
Wow.
1-year client sabbatical
Happy
has been
anniversary.
extended indefinitely. Yeah, thank you. um, so, I mean, it, I personally believe, and this is just my personal opinion, is that as a designer, we should all sort of start our own projects, or as my studio mate Cameron oftentimes says, and I think he really has a point in that. He says, we designers, we have everything we need to make a really awesome product, right? But we wait for a client to come along and give us the parameters and pay us to do it, and then give us their input, and then we oftentimes are not as happy because we don't think it is as good, at least visually or whatever it is, as it could be. So he really thinks that we designers need to become our own clients, because we could actually
Mm-hmm.
all make really amazing products or services. And I really think he has a point in that. So that if you are someone who has good ideas and who has the drive to actually create your own product or service, we should actually do that as designers. So I'm not sure if that answers your question,
Right.
but it's just something that's really dear to my heart, is that I want to see more and more people becoming their own entrepreneurs and really create their own products. And that's kind of the environment I created with the collaborative workspace that I started 2.5 years ago, Studio Mates. And I really can see that having people like Cameron around has influenced that. He's an entrepreneur at heart, and he really kind of pounds it in on everyone, saying start your own thing, make your own product, create your own site. You have an idea, and it's affecting all of us. Like we all have this like entrepreneurial virus going around, and I'm so excited about that.
It's a great virus to have if you're going to have one, I guess, right?
Yeah. 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 So
no, it's perfect.
Sorry for
it's
kind of
perfect
avoiding your overall big picture answer.
No, it's perfect, and it really speaks to something I think that is very true in the state of the industry and the state of design right now is so many people are doing those things and reaching out and learning and trying new endeavors and becoming their own bosses essentially. And hand in hand with that is this level of communication that's happening with people all over the world and internationally, right? And that's the next subject I want to get to, seeing your perspective from being born in Switzerland, right? Getting educated in, I believe, Munich and Geneva, is that right?
And Geneva, yeah.
And
yep.
Right. And then moving to the U.S. and working professionally here, and the idea that all these people now are, 20 years ago, there's hardly any communication overseas, right? It's very limited. But now we've got people from overseas live talking to us in a couple clicks. It happens right away. And sort of your perspective.
The internet is so amazing, isn't it?
I know. This could be just a, yay for the internet speech the whole time, because it kind of is.
Totally, no.
Yeah.
If I could, I would get married to the internet. My husband knows.
Oh, that's our quote for today. If I could, I'd get married to the internet. I'm even going to write it down. Married the internet. Quote. That will be tweeted later. Yeah, so I guess I'm just sort of looking for your perspective on how you're seeing that evolve and sort of how you participate internationally now.
How I participate in just the overall design world, or what do you mean?
Well, I'm sure it reflects strongly in your blog, and you'll see traffic from overseas, and things bounce back. The Swissmiss effect that might happen coming from your site going to other sites.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I also try. I mean, I try to cover a lot of European stuff on my blog, or I love getting submissions from Asia. I mean, I try to keep it as global as I can. But what I'm seeing is that, and that just somebody made a comment today, because I just today Say Media launched this Say 100 project where they asked 10 people in different industries, they call them experts, to sort of curate a list of 10 tastemakers. So I was honored that I was sort of the expert for the design community, and I had to pick 10 bloggers that I believe have a strong voice in the design community. And I blogged about it on my site, and one person said, well, typical again, it's mostly Americans. And the thing is that it's just that the US has a really strong blogger base. I mean, I keep trying to find really, for example, strong blogs in Switzerland. I keep asking about it. And there's a few, but I can count them on one hand, okay? Here, one hand. Yeah. And I just feel like there's so much happening in the States. Like the States are just so ahead when it comes to being out there on the web and putting themselves out there. And with Twitter and all that I sometimes wonder, either I'm not discovering it in the other countries, or they're just, about Switzerland, I know they're just way behind. They're just slower in picking it up. But I definitely try to be as global as I can with the things I write about, for example, in terms of my products on the site.
Would you venture to say that it's mostly a language barrier or a culture barrier?
I think both. I mean, for example, I can just speak for the Swiss right now. The Swiss are usually very slow in picking up new technologies because the Swiss just want to lean back first and check it out and see, if it's worth it. And it's okay. It's just a different way of approaching things. And then I'm sure it doesn't help if it's not your main language. I mean, if you want to kind of participate in this global phenomenon, you almost have to write in English, right? So I understand if it's not your first language, that it's kind of cumbersome. So I guess it's probably a combination of both.
I've just posted the link to your post there about the Say 100. Everybody definitely check that out. I'm sure it's a very interesting list. So definitely well worthwhile. We are going to start taking some questions here from the audience. I see we've got a number of them lined up. Guys, if you haven't submitted a text question, just click on the light bulb icon above the chat room and enter it in. It's real easy to do. So first one today comes from Gary Holmes, who says, Tina, I'm in awe of the many things you do. How do you balance your work and home life?
Funny enough, I just posted a TED talk about that on my blog because it's definitely on my mind. I wouldn't say I'm the most balanced when it comes to work and home life, but I must say I have a fantastic husband who's really helpful. I have two little kids. One is 1 and the other one is almost 5, and he is without him I couldn't do all the stuff I'm doing. We're definitely a team and share all the duties at home. So I just love what I do. So actually I don't really look at work as work. So even though, I come home and after the kids are in bed, I oftentimes go back to blogging or answering emails, but it doesn't feel like work because it's really, really where my passion is. So I guess that makes it easy in not feeling like I'm hogged down or I'm overworked because work, like I don't differentiate between work and my passion and work and play is kind of the same thing for me.
Always a difficult issue if you've got a lot going on at work and have ambitions at work to balance home life. Yeah, it seems like those borders are crossing quite a bit now that we have the opportunity to almost sort of work from anywhere. And of course, having a supportive family always, definitely, makes a big impact. So yeah, it's all about organization, isn't it? It always comes back. Here's how you do it. You sign up for an account at todo
Exactly.
.com and you just organize your life that way. Um,
Thank
Next
you for that.
question comes from Adam. Sorry, I'm going to mispronounce his Quirshi, who wants to ask a question about why make native apps? Why don't you just stay cloud based? What's the advantage there?
Is the question why I even bothered making an iPhone app? Is that the
I
question?
guess it's what a silly notion.
Um, for me, I'd be happy just to stay cloud based, but a lot of people are not there yet. They don't want to just be in the cloud at all times. So, we have to respect the people that are not there yet. Does that answer that?
I think so. I think it's a wide range of uses of all these internet apps, and it's if you don't, you can't make everybody happy all the time, right? You just can't. You just can't.
Nope.
So you got to do what you got
Nope.
to do. Um, so a question from Augustino Thomasinga who says, for a designer that's unable
That
to
is a
design
cool name.
apps, how it is rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? How do they go about doing so with no creative team?
For a designer that's unable to design apps.
It sounds like you're kind of out
Wow.
of luck there,
What do you
right?
mean? Yeah, I mean, if you're a designer but you can't design apps and you don't have a creative team, what kind of a designer are you? I don't know. I don't get that question. I'm sorry, Agostino. You have an awesome name, but I don't get your question.
I'm under the impression that anyone who's getting involved in creating applications for mobile purposes or web-based apps or whatever it may be, any number of those people who come in that work in that space are only going to be experienced in maybe one section of it, and they have to learn the rest of it to finish the project or completely hire it out or collaborate with someone. It sounds like we're
Well,
all
that's what I did.
in
I
that
just
state.
learned it.
Yes. Well, tell us about that then.
And I must say, well, once we made the to do web app and everybody screamed for an iPhone app, I looked at Cameron and was like, "Hey, Cameron, we're really web savvy, but we have both never done an iPhone app. Let's do it!" And I can't even tell you how excited I was because I sat there and I remembered my early beginnings of doing web design because I didn't know about 72 dpi. I didn't know how big a screen should be, and I started out like a complete novice on the iPhone. I
Hmm.
loved it because I learned so much. And once you have the web down, you kind of apply some of the assumptions onto the iPhone, and you go and just do it, right? And I think a lot of people still have just don't just do it. Try and learn and do it. And if it fails, you know what? Move on. It doesn't matter. That's my strategy.
You know, it's almost not a question of if it fails. The first time you do anything like that, you're going to make mistakes. I think you should plan on the first time I make this attempt, it's not going to be good and there are going to be issues with it. That's okay. It's almost sort of a mental game, right? You need to sort of
Yeah.
prepare yourself for what you're getting into, and then roll with the punches and learn after that. Because it's not like somebody jumped into this the first time and everything worked right. Everyone signed up for it. You become a millionaire. Nobody does that. That's not how life works, right?
Nope.
All right, we're going to take a first video call here. I haven't screened it, so we might have some connection issues. We'll try it.
Yay!
Dan Shapiro has been
Hey.
on the show a number of times. Dan, it's
Hey.
great to see you. What's your question
Dan.
for
Good to see
Tina?
you too, Ryan. My question is, what personal projects are you working on right now? You had mentioned this notion of, everybody doing their personal projects, and I could not agree more. Like, I love doing that more than I like doing my schoolwork, and that gets me in a little bit of trouble. But what are you working on these days, if you don't mind sharing?
I'm working on a store. There's going to be a Swissmiss store launching soon. I'm very excited about that.
Ooh, exciting.
Ooh, very cool.
Yep.
When do we hear announcements
Guess the
about that?
cat is out of
and
the bag
perhaps-
now, I guess.
Yeah, it's a global
I've never
announcement.
announced
The
it
Swiss Miss store
anywhere
is
yet.
coming.
Yes, it is.
So
indeed.
what's going to be sold in the Swiss
But that's
Miss
about
store?
all I'm gonna say. That's about all I'm gonna say. You're not gonna get more out of me.
All right, Dan. Well, thanks for coming on, buddy, and asking a question. It's great to see
Yep,
you
no
again.
problem. Good to see you too.
Thanks, Dan. Bye.
Awesome. Well, all right, yeah. So everybody follow at Swissmiss on Twitter for announcements about the Swissmiss store coming to your local computer soon.
Exactly.
Next question is from House is Now. Tina, do you ever procrastinate? Never, right?
Oh yes. Oh my God, yes. But here's the funny thing. It's all about definition of procrastination. Because back in the days when I still had clients, right? The more I would tweet, the more I would blog during the day, like my studio mates, they knew, the more I blogged, the more I had client work and client deadlines, and I would procrastinate, and my procrastination is blogging. So while you might procrastinate and sit on the couch and twiddle your thumbs, I might just blog.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Right, yeah, there's just so many distractions. I think I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. The idea of reading a book on a tablet device, and how some people have the argument of, well, I don't want to read a book on an iPad because I know that there are 80 apps underneath that are blinking at me and fun games to play, and all of these constant distractions that are fun, and in some ways, they are learning exercises. It's not like sitting and watching TV and just becoming a couch potato. There are interesting things to be done there. So those people make the argument, I only want a Kindle because Kindle is only for reading. There's no thing popping at me in the background, and I can concentrate on that one thing. So really, my question here is, do you ever find yourself not being able to focus on your client work because, or in the past, client work because you have the blog or something that you saw earlier that you want to talk about?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I fully admit I am as distracted by Twitter and the web and submissions and all the stuff I find as it gets, right? So yes, that was a tough time for me, and especially when I had like really tight deadlines. Like I had to force myself to turn like the internet off, and
Mm-hmm.
and I get the itch. So I'm kind of glad that at this point I'm my own client, and I just have to, yeah.
It's the internet itch. We've now dubbed it. It now has a name.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. L.N. Villancourt. Very cool name again. How can you afford to take a year off? Does your hubby pay the bills?
You know what? I'm going to take a screenshot of this and show it to my husband. He's going to crack up. No, my husband does not pay the bills. We go 50-50 on pretty much everything. And even though I decided to take a 1-year client sabbatical, I still pay my share, what I did before as well. And I the way I do it is that I've always made some money off my blog, but I was able to ramp it up a little bit with the advertising income. And I have like a Kudal. I'm part of the Deck network. Very lucky to be part of that. I'm part of Authentic Jobs listings on my site, and they're very subtle, but they're on my site and they bring in some money. I do speaking engagements, and I'm paid for those. I do speaking engagements, sort of more corporate world. For example, just next week again, I'm giving a talk at P&G. So I still have clients in some sense. It's more so consulting. It's not just a straight up website consulting anymore, website design. So I do pay my own bills. But I will send this question to my husband. He will be amused.
That's hilarious. This is a subject we sort of get into a lot about the cross section of creativity and business, and how some people who get involved in design or the creative industry have a tough transition in shutting off that part for a while and executing on the business and making sure they send out invoices and what's the relationship with the client and how do you go about that. Did you have a sort of mentor early on in your career to be able to accomplish those things, or was that something that you developed on your own?
You mean just the skill to run a design studio?
Correct.
No, I mean, when I still was in full-time employments, I was made sure to watch closely how they run their company, to look, what, proposals look like and all that. I mean, I was aware that eventually I want to do this on my own. There's lots of resources out there. And again, I am a somewhat organized person, and I'm a perfectionist. So like if I know I have to write a proposal, I would like once I jumped into this, like being my own design studio, like the first proposal of course took me way too long.
Mm-hmm.
But once I had a good template down, I was able to reuse it. So it just, the first year is painful, and you just need to talk to a lot of other people that run design studios. And I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but here in New York, when you approach other designers that went on their own, they're extremely forthcoming with information. And I'm a firm believer that you should share information, like stuff you've learned, or if somebody would, like in my studio, ask me, can I look at your proposal? How do you do this? How do you do these estimates? I would always share it. So it's just a matter of like putting yourself out there, asking for help, talking to people that you look up to and think that do a good job in what they do.
Next question comes from Mark Graybill, who says, I was inspired the last time you were at Portland at Whedon Kennedy. When are you coming back? Exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you, Mark. That was when I was there with my baby bump. Yeah, that was very cool. I don't know when I'm coming back, but my very, very dear friend Jen and Michael, they unfortunately moved to Portland. Good for them, not good for us. So I am sure I will be back. I'm not sure if I'm going to give a talk, but I'll be back.
I'll be back. Just like the senator.
Maybe we can start a creative morning over there, and then I'll definitely come back.
Oh, well, there you go. Kickoff. All the more reason. Yep. This is great. We've got more and more questions still lining up. We're about 1:40. We're going to end in just in a little bit, guys. So definitely fit your questions in. Oh, I think I may have mentioned this in an email, Tina. I don't remember. I think I did.
Okay.
At the end, we do just a quick turnaround where you actually ask a question of the audience, and they can respond by entering their text into these question formats or just putting it in the chat room. So think about that in the back burner.
Okay.
As we go along here.
Okay.
Steve Alcock asks the question, I love a new house grotesque. A cliche that I know, Tina, but what is your favorite go-to typeface?
It is not Helvetica. Please, everyone, stop, putting me into the same drawer as Helvetica. Even though Helvetica means Switzerland, and even though I use Helvetica in my logo, I do not equal Helvetica. Okay. So my current favorite is actually I have a new favorite right now, which I started using on the Creative Mornings website. If you go to creativemornings.com, check out that one font on there. It's called Atrament, and it's actually a font that is available on Typekit, which I'm very excited about. That's to me kind of a new condition that whatever font I pick, it needs to be able to be embedded in websites. Yep.
Awesome. Yes, I do not equal my typeface. This is a good thing to state. You know, I used Helvetica New Ultralight for the DesignChat typeface, and in doing these things, for me anyway, because I know we're going to talk about so many different subjects about design and DesignChat, and have so many different styles of designers on. For me, it's a way to become very clean and very clear, and not get in the way of the rest of the content that's going to live underneath that message, right? You know, and I sort of struggled with that because it's, you know, I'm like, oh man, Helvetica, cliche. I'm going to be viewed by all these great designers, and how are they going to look at me if I use this? And I said, no, screw it. It needs to be clean. It needs to be perfect. It needs to be out of the way but understood and clear. And it served its purpose, and then that way it's functional in a design way. Right, and yeah, F that. So that was out the door. AD3K wants to know, do you drink coffee? I obviously do. Can you see I ramble a lot?
Yes. Yes.
Well, do you have a coffee routine? Is there like a certain set number of steps that you go through in the morning? You only get one brand. What's your coffee deal?
All right, so I have my favorite coffee maker at home, which is Francis. It's a very cool looking one. And my first thing in the morning is I flip the switch. And then the big secret for me is I have illy coffee at home, and I heat up milk and I froth it. It needs to be frothed.
Really?
And then I pour in the coffee. Yes, it's a big ritual with me. And then at work I have an espresso. So I like the change.
I'll have to try that. I
there
never heat up the milk. That I don't usually use milk, but when I do, it's always cold. So you just put it in a little cup and what, you throw it in the microwave for like 30 seconds or something, and then whip it.
Yep. That makes it so much better.
Brilliant. Guess what I'm doing tomorrow? Coffee experiment. To report back to everybody how that goes, and if whether or not I burn myself, which I probably will. It'll happen. Nadia F wants to know, how big is the range of emotions you go through with projects relative to the love or hate of that project?
Well, it depends on the project. I must say it's definitely more steady ever since I do my own projects. There's been more up and down with client work, that's for sure. But ever since I'm my own client, I think it would say the whole emotion range has leveled out a little bit. But I'm not always so happy with my company.
I can understand that, because if you take the client out of the equation, you take out the extra opinions or curveballs that you might get, because a lot of us deal with, you know, the curveball of, yes, that's what I told you to do, but I've completely changed my mind now that I see this, and my cousin or my 9-year-old kid did this, you know, in paint. Give me that, right? And you know, that's going to spin you completely out of control.
Oh, we've been there. But you know what? I must say one thing. I don't want to be considered as a client basher. Just because I got rid of clients doesn't mean I'm a client basher. Being a client is really hard. You know? So
this is true.
I'm my own client.
And a great point to sort of touch on is that, you know, I know in this show we hear a lot of gripes from designers, right? We hear a lot of the frustrations, because those are the things that boil to the top. We don't get all of the really, I love those, you know, I love that moment of what keeps on bringing me back to work every single day. This is almost like design therapy in some way. We get a whole range of people with a whole range of problems. So we hear a lot of the bad and maybe not so much of the good. But that's a great point to bring up, is sometimes those client relationships can be symbiotic, right? They can be beautiful. Yep. You know, and those don't get talked about as much.
Yeah. And again, as I said before, please look up, if you're into the topic of clients, or if you're having a hard time with a client right now, or it's just something that is dear to you, look up the Michael Beirut Creative Mornings talk where he spoke about clients. It's absolutely brilliant.
I will tweet that out afterward. I'll find that and tweet that out to everybody from DesignChat after the show, just because I'd like to see it now actually too. This is funny. Evan Schunger wants to know, how do you keep a New York design studio's floor so white?
When people get in to the studio, they have to take off their shoes, and I have like these little felt shoes that they need to put on. No, I'm just joking. Which is clean.
And those are mops.
Yeah, exactly. No, we clean our floors. And that's Jessie, by the way, back there. She's lovely.
Hi, Jessie. You are lovely.
Hi. Jessie, wave. You're live.
She's wearing a scarf
You
too.
gotta check out. I know. You gotta check out rainbowbirthday.com. If ever anyone who's like on the web right now, because that's her. She loves colors, and she has a really awesome site called rainbowbirthday.com.
Rainbowbirthday.com. There it is in the chat room. Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, guys, we're going to be wrapping up very soon. So if you have any more questions, please get them in. We've got a couple more questions lined up, and then Tina is going to ask a question of you guys. So be ready for that. Yum Forever resubmitted the question. Great. How does studio mates work together? In Brazil, we're not used to that kind of structure.
Well, we actually don't necessarily work together. When we mean a collaborative workspace, I don't mean that we all work together. We at times work together because somebody brings in a project and they need a copywriter, so they ask Burke. So they need a developer and an iPhone developer, and they ask Larry. So collaboration does happen, but it's not like something that is like imposed onto the space.
That's very cool. Lost everybody. All right, we're back. Yeah, sort of a new concept that we're seeing pop up in a number of different places. I know that. Oh, say hello to my cat. That's Seymour. Hi, Seymour. He's going to be hosting the second half of the chat. Yeah. No, we're seeing this happen a lot. There's a number of groups in Chicago now that I know that the Post family just started a sort of collaborative workspace deal. I'll look that up too. I can't remember what they're calling it right now, but yeah, it's a great new way like for entrepreneurs. Oh, they are fantastic, aren't they? They've been on the show too. Yeah,
yep, I know.
Definitely. If you guys are in Chicago, look them up, Post Family, and come check them out. Okay, well, let's take a couple more questions, and then we'll turn the tables. Gary Holmes wants to know, Tina, do you like Toblerones with your coffee? This is going to be coffee chat soon.
Gary, I absolutely do.
So Gary, you can send Toblerones to Swissmiss, care of Tina Roth Eisenberg. A couple more here. I went to school with Michael Beirut. He was a 1 year ahead of me and was a child prodigy and had now what? L.N. Villancourt. I don't know. What did he have? Everybody in the chat room, finish that question.
That's the big mystery now.
What did he have?
He had a unicorn. He had a unicorn, right?
He had a unicorn in his backyard, and that's where he got all of his design magic. He wouldn't let anybody touch it.
I wish I could say. I wish I went to school with Michael Beirut.
I know, what an experience that would have been. Okay, last question, Mac or PC?
I just turned my husband into a Mac. I married him as a PC,
did?
and I saw the potential, and now he's a Mac. Yes.
You turned your actual husband into a Mac?
No, I mean, he's a Mac now. I mean, a Mac user.
He's a very powerful Mac. That's awesome. How did that even happen? Was he against it? Was it something he was interested in? What does he use it for?
Well, he's a kitchen designer, and the software that he uses only it's called 2020 to design kitchens. It only exists for PC, and even though I kept telling him you can run Microsoft, you can run the whole PC world on a Mac. He's like, yeah. And then once he got an iPhone, and then he got an iPad, and he realized how easy everything is, and how easy everything syncs, and he got a MacBook Air, and now he's fully converted. And he will never go back.
That's fantastic.
He just told me that last night, actually.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
So now it's time to turn the tables, Tina. What question would you like to pose to the 173 design community members in the chat room right now?
I would like to know, and they're going to tweet that back, right? Is that how it works, or is it in the chat?
They will either enter it. They will either enter it into the chat room, or if you've got a really good answer to the question, guys, type it into the questions box, and we'll bring it up on the screen like we were before.
Well, what I would just love to know is, where would you want to see your next Creative Morning City to pop up, and what speaker do you want to hear speak?
Interesting. I want one in Chicago.
That might happen.
It might
sooner
happen.
or later.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll be listening
Chicago's
to
in a
that.
very
Morales.
high up on the list.
Memphis. Kyle Scott wants Memphis. Gary Holmes wants to see one in Pandora. Where's Burlington? Michael Hobbs,
Okay.
Burlington. Qualify that. What city is that? Is that the UK? Detroit. Vermont. From Michelle Hobbs. Ellen Villancourt says Chicago is it. I agree.
Should we let the cat out of the bag that probably Chicago is going to be the next city? I think we can say that, right?
I think you just did, Tina. I think that's what just happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we say who it might be?
No. No.
No? No hints?
No,
Give us
no,
a hint.
no.
Just a little
No.
hint.
No.
A little
No.
piece
It's
of
not
the
official.
pie
It's
that
not official.
It's not official?
No. No, it's not official.
It probably will be. Here's another good one. Massimo Vignelli. He's a great speaker.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting. If you're not familiar with Massimo, definitely if you want to know, just great speaker about typography and everybody say hi to Seymour. He's really bugging me. These blue eyes.
That's awesome.
Bye, Seymour. Definitely look him up and read up on Massimo. Definitely, he's still active and he's still touring and he still speaks.
And for those that don't know the Vignelli Canon, Google Vignelli Canon.
Yes,
it's an
there's
amazing
you
PDF
can
you'll find
download.
online.
I don't know if it's the whole thing, but you can get a big portion of it on PDF.
Yeah. Or you can buy the book on Amazon. It's amazing.
Right.
It's a
yes.
must read.
I think they've got a tease as a PDF, and definitely will force you to buy the book because you're going to want to read the whole thing. Agostino Thomas Zinga, with that great name, wants one in London. Worldwide.
Yeah,
Great.
London is high up too. Yep.
Cool. So I think that sort of brings us to the end of this great design chat with Tina Roth Eisenberg. Thank you again so much. It was an honor to have you on. We are going to be doing more of these regularly in the future. I know we've sort of taken like a month off. I sort of needed a break. It got a little crazy. Some other announcements. I've just joined the board of directors of the Society of Typographic Arts. That's a group. If you're not familiar with it, it's a design group from Chicago. So if you're in Chicago, go to sta-chicago.com and check us out. A lot of great design events in Chicago coming up. And check back on the Twitter account on DesignChat for announcements about more shows. In 2 weeks from now, we've got Justin Ahrens from Rule 29. He's just done another documentary about Africa, so that's going to be very interesting. I think he's promised to show some footage from that. Some of the first footage that he's showing will be on DesignChat, so definitely log in for that. It's going to be awesome. Tina, it was a pleasure. I can't wait to hear all these crazy announcements from you in the future and talk to you very soon. So thanks again for coming on.